Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Joker's Wild. Now, I know last episode I said we were going to go straight into Injustice 2, but I also said something about doing the endings, the different endings that you get for finishing battles. Um, and I figured I'd go ahead and do that before jumping into a different game instead of going to a new game and then later on sometime coming back to it. That way you get all the original Injustice content I'm going to do, and then we go on to a new game. So, first a little explanation about the battles. So the single player does have the campaign, the story, but you can also do a couple of other things. There's the training, obviously. There's single fight if you just want to go on and like beat up on the computer a little bit. There's also Star Labs, which is different challenges you can do for different characters. I don't like them because the majority of them are quick time events, so I just don't do them. But I mean, they are challenging, and if it's something that you find enjoyable, by all means, go ahead. Um, but with the battles, if you do those, there are different types that you can do. I think you actually unlock the ending if you do any battle and actually get all the way through with a specific one, except for a few, and I'll explain some of those in a moment. But the one that I did in order to unlock was the classic, which is just 10 random characters are chosen, and it's, go up the ladder. The last one is always Superman, and he's always in his Injustice bad guy version, instead of any of the other skins. However, all the other characters could be in any of the skins that you can unlock in the game. So, like, that Batman might not actually be that version of Batman. It might be the Red Sun Batman. It might be the Flashpoint Batman. Shazam might be the one from the Injustice universe, or it might be the original Shazam, or basically, you get the idea. Then there's a Heroes Only, where you go through and fight every hero character. Villains Only. It's pretty self-explanatory if you just read what they are. Poisoned, there's something always draining your health. Survivor, your health meter carries over. The one thing about this is if you do like really awesome things like a cool combo or something, you get extra health put back on your health bar. So it's doable if you're really good at the game, but um, it's pretty tough. Mirror match. This is one of those I was saying you don't get to choose one character. It's every time you fight a new character, you're a mirror version of them. Mystery. Every time that you fight, there's mystery buff or debuff, something either really cool for you or something that screws you. Fully charged. Your super meter is unlimited, but you can't do your super awesome move. Combo heaven. This one is probably the toughest one for me, personally. One of the toughest ones. Simply because I'm not very good at doing combos. If you've seen me actually play, you know this already. So, as you get further into this one, the number of hits that you need in order to actually clear it goes up. So by the end, it's pretty much impossible for me. And the one way that you can like try to get those up with like transitions or doing super moves, those are disabled. So yeah, that's awesome. This one is another really tough one. You basically have to take someone out in 30 seconds, because after every 30 seconds, the opponent's health is just 100%. You have to be really good and really fast in that one. Injured, you begin each match with only 1/4 of your max health, so that's a pretty tough one. Give and take. Each one of you gain health whenever you land an attack, so you have to not. This one is a mode for people that are good blockers, that don't just go only on the offensive. Although that is a good way to do it. I mean, if you're only on the offensive and never give the opponent time to attack, I mean, you're going to be healing all the time, so anytime they do deal a little bit of damage, I mean, if you stay on the offensive enough, it's good, but this one is a good one to learn how to block and make it count. Sidekick, each one, every time that you come up with someone, they'll also have a second person helping them, you know. Speed run, 2 minutes to defeat everyone. I'm pretty sure this is still only 10 characters, but still, 2 minutes to beat 10 characters. That's hard. Random fighter. So the like step ladder that you're fighting, you'll know who you're fighting, but every time that you go into the battle, it just randomly chooses someone that you're fighting with. So that's a good one for, you know, you need to know everybody's moves in some way before you can even attempt to do this, and otherwise it might pick someone you have no idea how to use and you'll get your ass handed to you. Countdown, defeat each of the opponents in under 30 seconds. Honestly, that one is, to me, pretty much just this all over again, because you have to defeat each opponent under 30 seconds. Well, you kind of have to do that here too, or else their health is full. It's just, with this one, you just lose if it takes over 30 seconds, whereas with Help From Above, you just get another chance and hope they haven't beaten you into submission by then. Unstoppable, you have to go through and beat everyone without losing a single match. If you lose a single match, you go back to the beginning. The max, you have one chance to defeat everyone at max difficulty. Obviously, I've never even attempted this. I could never even hope to do this one, but at least not without a lot of practice. Full house, every single character in the game, and impossible, every single character in the game with a single health meter. Yeah, I'm not even sure if you can choose. I know that with Classic you can choose the difficulty. I'm not sure if you can choose the difficulty on this one, but even on the absolute easiest one, I don't think I could honestly do this one. But for what we are looking at today, all I need to do is the Classic, which was just 10 characters. This one, you can pick your difficulty, and just because I wanted to speed through them as much as possible, I did it on very easy. Yes, I know, I'm a wuss. I've heard it all before. So, once you reach the end and beat Superman with every character, you unlock all of the endings, and so that's what we're going to go through and look at. And while the ending is playing, I'm actually going to, you know, keep quiet and just let it play, let you listen to it, and then I'll comment on them afterwards. So in order to find the endings, you go to bonus features and then to the archives, and go over to characters. Now, not only can you view the character endings, but also if you see over here on the left side of the screen, it says alternate skins, and each one has a list of alternate skins. Well, most of them do. Some are much longer, a longer list than others, but there are a few that don't have any alternates at all, and those are the DLC characters. Except for one. There is one character that does have an alternate skin, and that's Zod, because this came out around the same time as Man of Steel, and so they decided to throw that in as an alternate skin for this character. Not exactly a huge fan of that movie, but whatever. And I will show you one of my favorite, just to show you how to go in and see the skins. I'm going to show you one of my favorite versions of Superman, and I really wish that they had kind of built this into into the comic books a little bit more often. Instead of that, I don't know how many of you read comics during that time, but I believe it was late 90s, mid to late 90s at some point, Superman became blue and electric. and I thought it was absolutely hideous and stupid. Still not quite as bad as when he had a mullet, but you know. But I wish that instead of that, they had given him this version of his outfit, because this is actually really cool. But if you read over here, it actually tells kind of the story of, because this was an actual comic book storyline. Not sure how many issues, but Kal-El finds himself with amnesia and in the shrunken city of Kandor, married to someone named Lila. He finds himself facing a Kryptonian villain, and of course, by the end of the issue or storyline, he remembers who he is and escapes and goes back to being Superman. But this outfit is so awesome. I really like it. I really wish that it had seen more play in the comics, because, I mean, look at that. That would be so cool. Imagine if, after the whole Death of Superman story arc, when Superman, the real Superman, finally came back, he had come back like this. I mean, that, from everything from those things on his legs, the shin protectors or whatever, to, I mean, that just looks so cool, I think. Would have been so much more. And since it is supposed to be truly Kryptonian wear, like, I mean, this is supposed to be something that he wore as his normal outfit in the Godfall storyline. So this was actual Kryptonian wear. It would have made a lot of sense that he would have come back wearing something, if not exactly this, at least somewhat like it. Like maybe instead of black, make it blue, so that you at least keep the same colors. But I mean, that would have been so cool. But yeah, you can go through and look at every single character's skins if you want, but today we're not looking at skins, we're looking at endings. So we're going to go ahead and just go through and do it alphabetically, starting with Aquaman, and here is his ending.
Victory over Superman was only the beginning of Aquaman's rise to power. Uniting the world's oceans under the banner of Atlantis, Aquaman had a controlling interest in the planet's ecology and economy. His influence did not escape the attention of the world's multinational corporations, who looked to end his reign. Villains lured by the promise of big money to assassinate the King of Atlantis pursued him relentlessly. But Aquaman's popularity served him well. The world's citizens rose up in anger against those who would quell Aquaman's influence. The threat abated, a groundswell of support began for a united Earth under Aquaman's command.
So essentially, if Aquaman had beaten Superman, he would have wound up ruling Earth. Maybe in a better way, maybe a less dictator, more benefactor, but still. Would have wound up with a superhero ruling us in a way. Let's see what would have happened if Ares had taken Superman out. Oh, wrong button. Try that again.
Superman's defeat did not work to Ares' advantage as he had planned. The heroes of the parallel dimension helped this world's Batman build a conflict-free utopia that left the war god famished. On the brink of death, Ares managed to imprison Brainiac 5. He forced Brainiac to create a time loop beginning with the other dimensional heroes' arrival and ending just before their victory. In this pocket of time, Ares flourished. Endless war was his to savor.
Alright, well, as much as I kinda wish that that were canon in some way, obviously it's not, because we know that the Injustice universe goes on to have another game, so there was more conflict, so they didn't create a utopia, but it's nice to think that that might have been what eventually happened, and he just sort of went off and created a little time bubble loop of his own to just, you know, kind of have him off almost in his own little pocket dimension in a way, so he wouldn't bother anyone ever again. Now, I wonder what would happen if Bane had taken Superman down. Let's see.
Superman had been a fool to believe Bane would willingly accept a subordinate role in the One Earth government. With the High Counselor out of the way, true leadership could begin. Though they lacked intelligence, Bane found in Sinestro and Black Adam inspiring examples of ruthless, absolute authority. They reciprocated his regard for their talents. The three former villains regained control of the planet and formed a ruling triad that would be uninterrupted until the next phase of Bane's plan.
So, if Bane had taken Superman out, three villains rule the Earth until, apparently, at some point, Bane would have taken those two out. Now, this one actually, I consider this ending technically canon, even though it references Batman taking Superman down himself. This pretty much is kind of what happens in the universe. So let's see what this ending is.
Following the battle to liberate Earth, Batman learned that Luthor had bequeathed his massive fortune to Bruce Wayne. He now had the means to rebuild Gotham and Metropolis. The city's residents, inspired by their hero's efforts, adopted the slogan, "We are Batman." They contributed countless hours to their community's renovation and crime prevention. The Batman of old would have stubbornly assumed these tasks alone. The post-One Earth Batman, having been rewarded for his trust in others, enjoyed his city's renewal and his role as its benefactor.
And the way I interpret it, the fact that Bruce Wayne, overlooking the rebuilding of Gotham and Metropolis, sees in his reflection Batman, to me, tells me he's going to go on and continue being Batman. He's just doing what needs to be done now, but obviously, you know, crime isn't going to go away just because Superman was beaten. Like, there's going to be new threats for him to take on, and eventually Batman will return. So that's why I personally consider that one to be canon. That is kind of what happened. So, Black Adam. See what would have happened if he had been the one to take out Superman.
The defeat of Superman taught Black Adam one thing. Most of Earth's denizens were too weak to adopt Kahndaq's visionary form of government. He returned to his homeland with a new plan. Combining their energies, Black Adam and his empress Isis created a mystical barrier around Kahndaq. There they reigned in peace, their country an oasis in the wasteland of human civilization. A true oasis once Black Adam had destroyed all other life on Earth.
Okay, that would be very, very bad, I think. But it also, I mean, all other life on the planet would also mean he probably took down every other superhero and supervillain as well. So, that would be bad. Let's do, this is another one that I consider canon. Especially, once you play through some of Injustice 2. Without giving too much away, once you play through the storyline of Injustice 2, this makes a lot more sense of why I think this is canon. But let's go ahead and watch the character ending.
At last, Superman had paid for what he had done to Catwoman. Feigning allegiance to his regime had cost Selina her beloved Batman and her best chance at happiness. Pride and anger kept her from attempting reconciliation with Bruce Wayne, but his inspiring reconstruction of Gotham and Metropolis fostered in her a desire to remain close to him. Until she was ready to approach him again, she did her part to keep Gotham's streets clear of crime. Nascent underworld organizations had both the Bat and the Cat to fear.
That being said, that doesn't mean that she never went back to crime, right? There's been many times where the Cat joined the Bat in stopping crime, and she always seems to return to her roots. So here we have Cyborg. He's a hero, right? So his ending should be at least halfway decent. Let's see what happens if he had been the one to take down Superman.
After Superman's defeat, Cyborg led the assault on the Fortress of Solitude to flush out remnants of the High Counselor's regime. The fortress was well defended, the battle intense. Cyborg was forced to use unfamiliar Kryptonian tools to make repairs to his damaged cybernetics. Enhanced with the alien technology, Cyborg found he could communicate with Superman's androids and order them to apprehend the opposition. With his army of super androids, Cyborg will bring justice to the world.
Justice to the world. That doesn't sound creepy at all, does it? Huh. Wondering just how much of his humanity is left after that. Deathstroke, he went through quite a bit in this game. So let's see what happened if Deathstroke, and technically this one, it never actually says that Deathstroke is the one that beat Superman. So I think this is at least possibly canon ending for Deathstroke's story anyway. But as far as I can tell, it never actually says that Deathstroke is the one that took Superman down, and that's why I think this is a very real possibility for what happened canonically. So let's watch it.
With Superman's regime toppled, new governments formed to take its place. New governments meant new customers for Deathstroke, and business was booming. Soon there were more assassinations to carry out, revolutions to aid, and unrest to create than he could manage on his own. The One Earth regime's elite troopers, having committed atrocities in Superman's name, had gone into hiding from a populace bent on revenge. Impossible for most to find, but not for Deathstroke. Recruiting these renegades, he formed the New Titans, the world's premier political assassins.
The New Titans. He had the temerity to call them the New Titans. So, from what I understand, both Raven and Cyborg are the only ones that survived the whole cataclysm. They're the only remnants of the Titans left, except for possibly the original Nightwing, but as we found out in the story, he's dead thanks to Damian Wayne. So the original Titans are dead. How mad do you think that those two were, Raven and Cyborg, when they found out that Deathstroke had named his assassination organization the New Titans? Something tells me that yes, that may well be canon, but I think he wound up having a couple of people coming after him for that. Doomsday. Now this one, I mean, it's nowhere near canon, obviously, but I would absolutely love to see this ending done in a comic book, like just an alternate, like what if scenario, or what is it in DC? It's Otherworlds. I would love to see an Otherworlds comic based on this ending, because I think it would be really cool. So let's watch it.
Free of Superman's control, Doomsday eradicated the remaining metahumans. He then manipulated technology in the abandoned Fortress of Solitude to terraform the Earth. It soon resembled prehistoric Krypton. At last, it felt like home. After a few years of exterminating humanity at his leisure, however, Doomsday needed a challenge. Having assimilated Superman's ability to fly, he headed for a nearby space sector. He had heard rumors of an opponent worthy of his attention, a Caesarian mercenary with a taste for violence. Doomsday was eager to meet this Lobo in battle.
Tell me, who wouldn't love to read a comic based on that of Doomsday versus Lobo? In one corner, a character who can be defeated, but then comes back where you can't defeat him that same way again. And another character who, as far as I can tell, literally cannot die, can regenerate from like as little as one cell of his body or something like that, I think is how it was described at one point. Like, that would be a really good fight. I would kind of love to see that. Or read it anyway. The Flash. This one, I kinda... A part of me kinda wished, when I first saw this ending, a part of me thought, well, this seems like something that could be a canon ending, but I don't know. I just don't see it. So let's go ahead and watch it and see what you think.
Flash had taken down the High Counselor, but the atrocities he had abetted during Superman's regime continued to haunt him. His shame eventually drove him into exile. Whether wishing to make further amends or simply unable to stop himself, Flash continued to use his powers in the pursuit of justice. Rumors of a mysterious red streak of energy that would set upon and incapacitate criminals circulated throughout Central City. While only some deduced his true name, most felt gratitude and affection for the new hero they called the Ghost.
So he winds up becoming a new hero called the Ghost. Now, based on what happens in the next game, we know that's not canon. But just think about that. If that had happened, he's still in Central City, the home of the Flash. He's known for wearing a red outfit and moving really, really fast. How is it that only certain people figured out that this new hero that moves so fast, he was a red blur, got the name of the Ghost instead of just being, oh, the Flash is back? Like, honestly, that just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I get that, like, he doesn't want to be known as the Flash anymore, but everyone should be able to tell, oh, that's the Flash. It's the Flash. Green Arrow. This one, a part of me really, really wanted this to be canon, but it just isn't. I just don't think that it is, based on what I've seen in the next game. But it is. Nothing says that it couldn't be canon, simply because, well, I'll just come out and say it. In the next game, there's a new Green Arrow that is still Oliver Queen, and it's not the Oliver Queen from the Prime Universe, the one that you actually get to play as in the storyline of this game. He did go back to the Prime Universe. The Prime Universe, the second game has nothing to do, all the characters that like came over to this reality went back, and they have nothing to do with the second game. But there's still a new Ollie. So I'm not, like, it doesn't really explain that so much. Or at least it doesn't, not in a way that like makes a whole lot of sense. But there is a part of me that really, really does wish that this had been the way they went. Instead of doing Green Arrow in the next game, they had taken this ending and just said, you know what, this is what happened. So let's watch.
After the fall of Superman, Green Arrow visited the Star City of this parallel Earth. His counterpart was one of the first heroes to fall in the battle against Superman, one of the first to object to the Man of Steel's new tactics and reasoning. A memorial erected in Star City's Orchid Bay served as a reminder of the need to fight oppression regardless of the odds. There, Green Arrow found that one citizen wasn't content to memorialize Oliver Queen in stone. With Green Arrow's training, a new archer, dressed in crimson, took up the fallen hero's mantle. Let Star City's criminals beware. The night belongs to Red Arrow.
So it's not really a hidden part. I mean, most people by now know that in Injustice 2, you get to play as Black Canary and Green Arrow, and they do reference that it's not the Prime Universe Green Arrow from the first game, and they didn't just bring the other Green Arrow back to life. They do make it sound like they went and found another one from another reality and brought him here. And I think that was more because they wanted to still have a relationship between Green Arrow and Black Canary. But it would have made, to me anyway, way more sense for them to just say, oh yeah, the character ending for Green Arrow in this is what happened, and in the new one, he's going to play the exact same as Green Arrow, but we're just going to call him Red Arrow, and instead of being like in a romantic relationship with Black Canary, they're just sort of partners, because she respects the fact that this person has went through everything to honor the man that she loved, and so has decided to work with him. That's what I would have preferred. But obviously they chose to go in another way. However, nothing in the second game says that there isn't a Red Arrow. So this one, I believe, could still be canon. It's just, it's a weird way of, if it was in the second game, why isn't Red Arrow involved in those goings on? So Green Lantern. Hold on, I've got someone knocking at the door, so hold on, I'm gonna go ahead and put in a pause real quick. Sorry about that, everybody. Had Jehovah's Witness at the door. Had to send him on his way. I told him I have more powerful beings that I'm dealing with right now than, you know, your imaginary friend. Anyway, so let's go ahead and watch Green Lantern's ending.
Mere days after returning to his Earth, Green Lantern, in an event mirroring his ascension to the core, witnessed the crash landing of an alien ship. Investigating the wreckage, he encountered the pilot, who claimed to be Abin Sur. But this Abin Sur wore no power ring, and referred to him in halting breaths as the Almighty One. Green Lantern tried to convince the alien of their past, that Abin Sur had named Hal Jordan, his successor, as the Green Lantern of Sector 2814. But the alien died from his wounds before Lantern could learn more of him. Lantern left immediately for Oa. The Guardians were his only hope of solving this mystery.
Okay, since that was a story about the Prime one, and we never deal with the quote-unquote Prime DC universe again in these games, that could very well be canon, and DC might have had an idea for some sort of storyline they could do with that, but as far as I can tell, they never did anything with that, and that was just something they threw in as a, hey, here's something that makes no sense whatsoever, and one day we might expand on, but they haven't yet, so, and that was several years ago, so something tells me we're never going to find out what the hell that meant. So now, Harley Quinn. This is actually, for me personally, this ending, more than any other, makes zero sense, and I'll tell you why after we watch it.
The defeat of Superman filled Harley with confidence. She knew what she was capable of and knew what she wanted. She traveled to the Visitor's Earth and freed the Joker from prison. Returning to her world, they married in a ceremony that set Gotham ablaze. At the reception, the cake-cutting ceremony took a gruesome turn. As her new husband playfully mashed her face into the cake, years of abuse took its toll. Something in Harley snapped. She used the ceremonial knife to slash Joker's throat. Still wearing her wedding gown, Harley now resides permanently in Arkham Asylum.
So, during the storyline of the game, we see her basically, yes, she does still have a thing for Joker and thinks that, he's her pudding and that he actually cares about her. We see her go through that again and then finally come to the realization when she sees just how easy it is for him to just cast her aside, and in fact was going to kill her. And she just is like, oh, apparently after all that character development of her finally realizing Joker is garbage, he is not a good person, he's not worthy of me. After all of that, her ending is that she's the one that took down Superman, so she went and got Joker and then killed him and wound up spending the rest of her life in Arkham. Like, since she is a playable character in the second one, we know this is not canon, but it's like you go to all the trouble in the main storyline of the game of building this character up and making her a hero and having her, learn the lesson of, the Joker is not a good person. Finally understanding what kind of a monster he is, and her character ending is, oh no, she just wanted the Joker. She's just the Joker's girlfriend. That's all that she is. Like, I really have a real problem with that ending. I happen to really actually love Harley Quinn as a character, and I think she's best when she's not with the Joker. When they finally had her realize, screw him, he doesn't deserve me, and had her go off and do her own thing, and even become a hero in her own right in some ways. And to see that, at least in this game, they had her fall back into, oh, just the Joker's girlfriend. I really dislike that ending. I really don't like it. I think they could have done a lot better with that one. I don't know who came up with that one, but that is not a good, that should not have been put in this game, in my personal opinion. So let's go on to a different one. Hawk Girl. So let's see what her ending would have been.
Free of his brainwashing, Hawk Girl exacted revenge on the High Counselor for murdering her husband, Hawkman. She was nevertheless sent to prison for her role in the regime. One night, she awoke hovering above her cot, glowing with eldritch light. An instant later, she stood at the bottom of a shallow crater. There, she found the source of the light, a meteorite of pure nth metal. As she touched it, the meteorite sprung to life, encasing her in nth metal. The new armor made Hawk Girl invincible. Her first act, vengeance against those who had helped Superman capture Hawkman.
Huh. So she becomes essentially Mecha Hawk Girl and goes on a killing spree on her former teammates, I guess. In the One Earth government, like that. I don't know. That's another kind of weird one. I mean, it's obviously not canon and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think some of these were people's ideas for what an like an Elseworlds tale they could tell, but this is the closest they could get to doing it. Okay, the Joker. This character ending, obviously the Joker in the Injustice universe died long before the events of the game. So this is the prime Joker. And while I personally don't think that it is canon, it's a very scary thought of what would happen if it did become canon. This is this is possibly canon in the quote-unquote prime DC universe. This very easily could happen. But it would be so very bad if it did.
Though he had failed to elevate the Joker clan's status, Joker was convinced a similar organization could be successful in his dimension. Joker used a series of devastating terrorist acts to frighten the populace, then convinced the more gullible among them that he was the path to security. The new Joker clan soon had millions of members worldwide and committed regular anti-government attacks, wreaking havoc on the global economy.
Yeah, that's something that the Joker is fully capable of doing, and it would be so very frightening. I mean, that would be very, very bad. So, Killer Frost. Let's see what her ending is.
Killer Frost reveled in her victory, but her overconfidence betrayed her. Seizing the opportunity, agents of Star Labs captured her. Their scientists harnessed her freezing power in order to fortify the world's polar ice caps. But Star Labs underestimated Frost's abilities. Turning on her captors, she froze their facility and eventually the entire Western Hemisphere. The survivors now struggle to overthrow the self-proclaimed Ice Queen.
I kind of like that one. I mean, the Ice Queen. That would be a pretty epic fight because you know that they like in order to try to use her powers to stabilize the polar ice caps, they would have had something to like augment her powers or something like that, or transmit them in some way. And with that at her beck and call, she would become like next level powerful. That would be a really cool Elseworlds tale. Yeah, I really like that. Lex Luthor. This one is another one that's like very possible and would be very, very bad.
A win against this world's Superman was greatly satisfying, but its aftermath would be sweeter still. Luthor had traveled to this dimension to convince its residents that he was their Luthor, who had miraculously survived the High Counselor's globally televised attack on him. Beloved before, the triumphant Luthor was now worshipped. He was elected President of the United States, but soon looked to further consolidate his power.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously not canon, but it's definitely something that Lex Luthor would do if he were even aware of the Injustice world. That's something he would have come over to do. Nightwing. And remember, this is, although here the regular Nightwing does say Dick Grayson, remember, this is not the Dick Grayson Nightwing, this is Damian Wayne Nightwing. So let's see what happened if he had been the one to take down Superman.
Nightwing had beaten his former boss, Superman, in single combat. Not even Batman had done that. His thirst for conflict grew. He began challenging anyone who crossed his path. Nightwing's belligerence eventually drew the attention of Sinestro. His corps was always in need of new recruits, and the young humans seemed able to inspire great fear. Sinestro had his suspicions confirmed when a yellow power ring found its way onto Nightwing's finger.
So that version of Nightwing becomes a Yellow Lantern, or I'm sorry, a Sinestro Corps member. I always just call them yellow lanterns because that's what they are. Almost every other version are called whatever color lanterns. The red lanterns, the green lanterns, the blue lanterns. The fact that they gave yellow and I think it's what, violet, and a couple of others like weird other names that they use instead, it makes no sense to me. Just call them what they are, yellow lanterns. So Raven. That would be an interesting fight because she commands great magical powers. So yeah, Raven going up against Superman, it's very possible that she would take him down, and hard. So let's see what happened if she had taken him down.
Winning the battle with Superman cost Raven dearly. The amount of demonic energy required overwhelmed her. After regaining consciousness, she looked around warily. Her immediate surroundings were a hellish ruin. Nearby stood her father, Trigon. Raven had somehow called him forth during her battle. Trigon thanked his daughter. He then summoned an army of demons and set out to destroy the rest of the planet.
Okay, so not so good. She inadvertently destroys the planet. So maybe it's a good thing that she, although the weird thing being is that she, like, that's something that she would do. So when we find Raven in the Injustice reality, she serves Trigon. So that wouldn't be something that she would be like, oh no, that happened. It would be something she would do to beat Superman. So, I don't know. That one is one of those that's like, I mean, yeah, that is exactly what would happen, but the motivation for why she would even see that as a bad thing just isn't there. So, I don't know. Shazam. Now, this one is, again, a possibly canon thing that happens in the Prime universe, but I don't think that it did. But it's something that could have happened, I guess. So let's watch it and see what you think.
Following the events in the parallel dimension, Shazam's fellow heroes returned home. But an alien virus contracted during the transfer created in them acute mental instability. They turned on their fellow crime fighters in a deranged fury. Alone and desperate, Shazam shared the power of the Word with his adopted brothers and sisters. Their purity of heart gave them courage. The army of Shazam incapacitated the former heroes. Eventually, they took the place of the Justice League as primary defenders of Earth.
So we wound up with the Shazam League? The Shazam family? Or technically, I guess it's the Marvel family, Captain Marvel family. Pretty sure I did recognize one of those as Mary Marvel, Captain Marvel Jr. Would have been nice if they'd have had, I forget what his name is, but the old white dude that became like Uncle Marvel or something like that, and the Tiger. That would have been cool from like the really early Captain Marvel storylines. Would have been cool if they'd have referenced those in that, but yeah. But yeah, that's another one that takes place primarily in the Prime universe and could have been something that was canon, but doesn't make sense why it would be. Like, nothing in the game had anything to do with a mind-altering thing, so. Sinestro. So let's see what happens with him.
When Superman's One Earth regime proved to be a failure similar to his on Korrigar, Sinestro retreated to deep space to ruminate on its demise. Fear had long seemed the most powerful of the emotions with which to bring order to the universe, yet it had not been enough. Desperate, Sinestro hurled the might of the Sinestro core against the life entity, keeper of the White Power Battery. Ultimately victorious, Sinestro now wielded the power of a White Lantern. No adversary could possibly withstand him. The light of the Green Lantern Corps would be the first he would extinguish.
Sinestro winds up as a White Lantern. Again, very, very bad. I don't know if you know much about the different Lantern Corps, but the White Lanterns are more powerful than any other because they literally derive their power from all the life in the universe. They are the most powerful lanterns of all, and it would be very, very bad if someone like Sinestro got his hands on that kind of power, because like it said, no one would be able to withstand it ever. Like, he would be able to fairly easily take out the New Gods and even Darkseid with that kind of power. Like, that would be bad. That would be super bad. And the worst part about it, in my mind anyway, is it still could be canon, because nothing in that ending said that he was the one that took down Superman. It's just he like escaped after Superman's regime failed. He got away. And in the storyline, he was supposed to have been returned to the Guardians, but he's escaped them before, so it very well could be that he just escapes the Guardians and eventually goes and gets the power of the White Lanterns. And so yeah, he could be coming up. If they were going to make an Injustice 3, I would think they would almost need to include him. If they decided to make that canon, he would make an excellent, like, big bad villain to try to take down. But honestly, I'm not sure that they could, because I don't think that there's anything that could defeat him if he had a white power lantern ring. So, let's see Solomon Grundy's ending. This one is actually, if you know a lot about some of the concepts of the DC universe, some of the things that actually are like the basis for what some beings' powers are, this is really, really interesting. So let's see what you think about it.
The battle over, Grundy eluded capture and returned to his swamp to heal his wounds. During regeneration, Grundy found he could channel the elemental force of the Red. All animal life would bend to his rule. His increased power also allowed him to resurrect the long-lost Grey Force. Now, instead of ruling Earth's creatures, he could simply destroy them. After defeating the world's heroes, Grundy turned Earth into his version of paradise. He now rules over a gray and lifeless planet.
So, anyone that has ever, like, read Swamp Thing, or knows anything about that character, would most likely know about the red or the gray. So there are certain forces, in DC universe anyway, that control certain things. The red is a force that connects all animal life. The gray, I believe, when it was first introduced, was like all decay, I think is what it was supposed to be. So like things like mushrooms or things that cause mold, stuff that causes things to decay. In the case of Swamp Thing, he's an avatar of the green, which is the force that sort of binds all plant life together. So the fact that Solomon Grundy would wind up with the power of two different forces would make him nigh and unstoppable. Yeah, that would have been, I could very easily see, if he did gain those kinds of powers, him destroying the Earth and ruling over just a big ball of rock in a way. And now we finally come to one of what I consider to be, it is a canon, in my mind anyway, it is a canon ending. And since it's talking about Superman beating Superman, this is what happened in the game. And that's why, since this ending talks about what happens after he returns home, I find this to be very, very possible, and I consider it to be what actually happened once they left the Injustice universe. So let's watch and see what you think.
Though pleased with the outcome, Superman's battle with his duplicate left him troubled. If one Superman could go so far astray, why not another? Preventative measures were in order. After much discussion with his fellow Justice Leaguers, Superman ingested a remote-release kryptonite capsule. At any sign of instability, the kryptonite would permeate his body, killing him. The question of who could trigger the device was solved democratically. Each week, a different Leaguer would take possession of its remote control. Only Batman was denied a shift.
Which honestly makes sense that Batman would be denied a shift because, like, think about it. He even says in the game, like, Batman, the Prime Batman, admits during the game that he has made plans in case Superman went rogue. So, like, he doesn't really need a shift on that thing. He's already got his own plans, even if everyone else is taken out and there is no one to actually, launch that or cause it to go off. Like, Batman has plans in place. He could take down Superman if he had to. Especially after seeing that, you know that Batman came up with even more plans, just in case. And now we get to the last of the non-DLC characters, Wonder Woman. This one is most decidedly not canon, but it is actually, for such a, I won't say lighthearted character, but for such a, like, hopeful type character as Wonder Woman, they went really dark with her ending. So let's watch it and see what you think.
Wonder Woman returned home to find her dimension in ruins. Aware of Superman's despotic rule of the parallel dimension, the gods of Olympus vowed to preemptively eliminate the metahuman scourge from their world. Under the direction of Zeus, they hunted down and eliminated nearly all superpowered mortals. All that remained to oppose them was Themyscira. Wonder Woman and her Amazons fought back against the Olympians with unrelenting courage. Despite heavy losses, Wonder Woman's forces ultimately prevailed. They took reign as the new Olympians, ushering in an age of peace and prosperity.
So it eventually turns out okay. I mean, a new age of peace and prosperity, but wow, that's really, really bad. That's it's a really dark turn. And now we get into the DLC characters. So with Batgirl, I mean, it's a possibility. It certainly, they went to great pains to make this seem like it could have happened, but the fact that she doesn't show up in the next game makes me think, I don't know. I mean, it's also very possible that this did happen, and then she just went off and did her own thing and didn't interact with any of the stuff that happened during the second game, but she's just out there. The same as like with the Red Arrow. She might very well be there and just not be part of this. So let's watch the ending and see what you think.
Not all heroes were destroyed by Superman. Some were actually created by him. A technology wizard, Barbara Gordon had eluded detection by One Earth intelligence, feeding information to the insurgency under the code name Oracle. But after the regime's murder of her father, Gotham Police Commissioner James Gordon, Barbara channeled her anger into a new alter ego. Sensing the right opportunity to strike, she attacked Superman directly. By defeating the High Counselor, she had announced Batgirl to the world in impressive fashion.
So like I said, the whole, like, the way that they say she took him down, obviously that didn't happen in game, so that's not canon, but, like, we do see that, or, well, in the game we don't, but we do know that it is very possible that during his regime, anyone who was critical of him seemed to disappear. So it's very possible that Gordon, who most likely would have been outspoken and would have said, "What the hell is going on?" would have gotten killed, and she very easily could have trained to become Batgirl. So I find that at least a possibility. This one, I guess it could have happened, I guess, but I don't think so. This one was one that they threw in just as like, hey, if you like DC, you'll love this character and he's fun to play, but it just really doesn't have it. Like, even his ending just doesn't seem like it fits in with the game. So let's watch it.
There was no shortage of vendettas during Superman's reign, and no shortage of bounties for Lobo to collect. He became one of the richest men in the universe by assassinating those who ran afoul of the High Counselor. Lobo's already massive ego inflated along with his rising wealth. Lobo searched for an assignment worthy of his abilities. With so many super-powered beings already dead at his hand, however, bounties were scarce. Lobo decided to use his wealth to create his own ultimate contract. He would kill the denizens of New Genesis, home of the new gods.
See, like I said, it doesn't really fit in because, if anything, that sounds like he made sure that the High Chancellor Superman didn't get beaten. That he like took out anyone who went against him. So that doesn't make any sense really with the game. So that one is definitely not canon. But I still kind of want to see at least him going up against the new gods. I want to see that would be an epic storyline. And it does say right there in his list of abilities that he is unkillable. So, I mean, I don't even think that Darkseid could ever truly take him out, but he might be able to capture him and twist his mind, which would be very, very bad if Lobo wound up serving Darkseid. Zatanna. Actually, one of my favorite characters in DC. I feel that she is underutilized a lot of the time in most projects, especially in this one, because even though it would make perfect sense for her to be one of the ones to go up against Superman because she uses magic and Superman is weak against magic, she seemed to just, well, you'll see in a moment, but she didn't do what I feel the character would have done in that situation, the way that I have read the character in the past, but let's see.
The defeat of Superman was a relief to Zatanna. During the regime, she and Dr. Fate had taken advantage of Superman's vulnerability to magic and turned the Tower of Fate into a sanctuary for Superman's enemies. She had saved many lives, but years of subterfuge weighed heavily upon her. After the regime's downfall, Zatanna was instrumental in restraining metahumans during their trials. But when a jury recommended the death penalty for the more immutable defendants, Zatanna intervened. She took the prisoners to the Tower of Fate. There they would remain, incarcerated, but alive.
And that's another one that I feel is very possibly canon, because while I don't think that Zatanna would have just went away and left Earth to just, okay, left it to Superman, I think she would have found a way to fight against him. At the same time, I do think that, yeah, first of all, her powers and the Tower of Fate would have easily allowed her to, imprison a lot of those characters that are very powerful. And she does have the type of moral code that would have prevented her from letting someone be sentenced to death. So I find that a very possible canon ending. The rest of these are so totally not canon, but they're still fun to watch. So we're going to watch the last three, and then that'll be it. We'll be done with Injustice 1, and the next time that you see me, it'll be Injustice 2. So let's go through these real quick.
Free of the Phantom Zone at last, Zod's first order of business, Superman's defeat, had been accomplished. Now his revenge could be fully realized. His time in the Phantom Zone had allowed Zod to learn its secrets. He had even learned from one of his fellow residents how to call forth small pockets of it at will. After introducing Superman to its mind-numbing emptiness, Zod claimed the High Counselorship and began to rebuild Earth in the image of mighty Krypton.
So yeah, if he had come to Earth and stopped Superman, he would have just taken his place, and ultimately not much would have changed, except it would have been a different face on all the statues. So Martian Manhunter, a part of me wants to say it could be canon, except that the whole comic book series that was a tie-in to this that like explained. So in the game you see that, you know, the instigating factor of what caused Superman to go off as Rocker, and then it jumps to 5 years later, and that's the events of the game. Well, there's an entire series of comics that explains what happened through that entire 5-year gap. And in it, it explains why Martian Manhunter wasn't either a part of the regime or the insurrection. So it explains why he's not a main member of the game. And so, based on that, this character ending is impossible. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, I suggest going and reading, because I'm not going to spoil it for those of you that are planning to go and read it. But if you don't really want to read comic books, it's in the wiki, I'm sure. But yeah, so go ahead and watch this possible version of the way things might have worked.
Banishing his friend and former teammate Superman to the Phantom Zone was difficult for Jean Jones, but necessary. As the One Earth regime had formed, Jean, ever the outsider, had chosen to watch from a distance to bide his time. He assumed the form of an Atlantean and served as royal archivist. Aquaman little suspected that his trusted subject's uncanny ability to gather news of the surface world was the result of telepathic powers. When Jean learned that heroes from a parallel dimension were aiding Batman's insurgency, he assisted as well, leading rescue operations in Metropolis and Gotham after Superman's rampage. In the post-regime era, the Martian Manhunter continued to serve his adopted world, gathering the next generation of heroes to form a new Justice League.
Like I said, I kind of wish that had happened, but it's nigh impossible based on what happened during that 5-year gap. So. And then one of my favorite characters in this game, Scorpion, character from the Mortal Kombat universe, found his way into the DC universe, and honestly probably did exactly what Scorpion would do, which is find the most powerful person and take him down and see, you know, and then look for the next challenge. So let's see what happened here.
The fool in the red cape had been dealt with. Now Scorpion would learn how he came to this place. Heretofore, only the sorcerer Quan Chi or the fallen elder god Shinnok could have summoned him. Scorpion's answers appeared in the form of Trigon, who accused Scorpion of deserting Trigon's demon army and stealing from him the glory of besting the High Counselor. The two faced each other in a titanic struggle. Scorpion emerged the victor and assumed control of Trigon's invasion force. Soon this strange new land would be his to rule.
So Scorpion takes over the DC, or the Injustice version of the DC universe. How much do you want to bet that the superheroes that he finds some way of like turning them to his cause, or, you know, getting inside their mind, something like that. Because if in this version of Scorpion is powerful enough to take down Trigon, he's probably got some tricks up his sleeve. Probably learned a little bit from Quan Chi or something. And yeah, so I see if this had happened, if he had wound up in the DC universe in this way and taken down Superman, I think he would have wound up ruling with an iron fist and possibly even like finding a way back to the Mortal Kombat universe and sort of merging them in some way, almost like in the Marvel, or not Marvel, the wrong series, the Mortal Kombat versus DC thing. I kind of see that possibly happening here again, only this time there won't be any heroes to put a stop to it. So that was all the character endings for Injustice 1. Yeah, I highly suggest going through, if you have this game and haven't taken the time to look through the alternate skins. Some of them are pretty cool looking. If you haven't bought the game, I highly recommend it. It's not the newest game out there, so wouldn't cost too much money. I highly recommend it, especially if you have other friends that like fighting games. It's pretty fun, and especially if you like fighting games and like comic books, then I don't know why you don't already have it. But yeah, this is a great game. I highly recommend it. But that's the last time that we're gonna play it here. Yeah. So next time you will be seeing me playing Injustice 2, finally. I do apologize for the length of this video. I realize that we've been going for quite a while now. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to keep up to date, just go ahead and click the bell so you can be notified of new episodes. Head on over to Facebook and Twitter, like and follow. Links to all that is in the description stuff down below. Thank you for watching.